great. That's a good environment. Like, it's early in the morning. We're still like sleepy, right? How are you today? We're bringing life to the classroom? Great. All right. Hopefully, yes, definitely. So, how are you? Good. How was your day yesterday? Did you have fun? Downstairs, it was really crowded. Definitely. Definitely. All right. So, tell me, what ages do you teach? Okay. Okay. Same? How about you? Middle school? Kids? Preteens? The most interesting ages? And energy demanding kids, right? So, before we start and while we get ready, why don't we get together, groups of three, two, share first the most interesting experience you've had as a teacher, then the most embarrassing experience you've had as a teacher, and the most frightening experience you've had as a teacher. Okay? The most interesting, the most frightening, and the most embarrassing experience. Okay? So get together and then talk about these three experiences you've had as a teacher. Okay? Please. Okay. No. Interesting, funny,
I know, I understand, we understand that, sorry. But tell us your most interesting, so like that we can get a better,
as an English teacher.
Because we don't,
see?
I mean, I don't really have like interesting experiences. I mean, because they change from day to day.
Okay.
But they're not really like, oh my God, today was very interesting. They're all kind of playing, together. I think interesting for me would be when like you explain something and they get it.
Yeah.
Like it clicks. Embarrassing? I don't know if it's embarrassing.
An embarrassing one, I do have one.
I don't-
I was teaching in my pants tore. Because it was a very tight
What were you
pair
doing?
of pants, and
Were you dancing?
I bent to pick up a marker,
Uh-huh.
and my pants tore. And I had to call my mom to
my
bring me a
God.
pair of pants.
But it wasn't like, it wasn't
My
in the
hair
classroom.
fell.
I know my
My hair
hair,
fell.
my makeup.
And interesting maybe could be not exactly while teaching, but a consequence of teaching. And not maybe of teaching, but working with my students. 5 years after, I had a student that called me, texted me and said, you know what? I just wanted to say thank you for that one day that you stopped and heard me, because it made a huge difference in the decision that I was about to take. And then I was like, okay. And she later on told me that she wanted to kill herself. And that day that I stopped to talk to her, she found that somebody listened to what she had to say.
We have a lot of, well, not exactly like that, but we have a lot of kids that have very like, low self-esteem, and so sometimes I just want to be seen, like I am here, I exist, pay attention to me.
Exactly.
It's, so,
Alrighty. Almost? Almost? Okay. Go on, go on.
There was a girl from the USA. It was blonde or from the USA.
White and blonde hair.
And she was speaking excellently well. But sometimes I didn't understand because she was speaking fast. I have to pay attention to her. Calm down, please. I said, I am the teacher, I have to
Manage this.
teach and to comprehend her.
It's also a learning experience. I always think that in the classroom, one of the greatest things is that we also learn from our students.
A lot.
And it's not, we normally assume, or it was assumed, that the teacher was the one that was always giving the information. But I think for me, the greatest experience I've had in the classroom is learning even from the kids. And sometimes the kids are the ones that teach you more
For me,
because of
it's,
their honesty.
I'm sorry, for me it's most difficult to understand the British people because the accent is so different. They are the correct. Well, it depends.
It depends from the perspective, but it's more complicated to understand.
For example,
And Scottish also is difficult.
Yes, I noticed the accent about however from the USA, however from British accent.
Okay, morning. Alrighty, let's go back. I'll share with you mine quickly. We were discussing with that group what would be an interesting experience as a teacher. I would say that for me, my interesting experiences as a teacher have been after teaching, maybe not precisely in the classroom, but like first when you see the results of your kids and they come back to you and it's like, I really hated English, but now I like it. because of being in a class with you, or people that would say, I don't speak English, actually, and I don't want to continue learning English, but I did enjoy your classes. I once had a class with police officers. It was an international law enforcement academy in San Salvador. I'm from El Salvador, but I now live here in Guadalajara. And I had this class with the police officers. They were from Brazil, Peru, Uruguay. And there was this old guy, and he was about to retire. And he said, listen, I'm here because they sent me. And English is part of the program, and I have to take it. So just bear with me. And I'm like, okay. And we had fun. It was a very low, they had like 3 levels. He was in the very low level class. We ended the course, and he said, I'm not going to use English. I really don't care about English, but I really had fun in your class. That was like 10 years ago. He still texts me like, hey, how are you? Whenever you come to Uruguay, you have a house here. And I'm like, I still haven't been there yet. I plan to, and I know I have a house there. Yep, because he even looked me up in LinkedIn, and he sent me a message like, are you still teaching? I'm like, kind of. Please, think about coming to Uruguay. My family wants to meet you. And I'm like, órale. So these are interesting things because you realize that you just don't teach a subject. You make impact in people's lives. Embarrassing, I was telling them, one of my embarrassing situations. I don't like loose clothing. And then once I had a very tight pair of pants, and my marker fell. I bent over to pick up the marker, and my pants tore. And I was teaching teenagers. God. And I spent the whole class with my back to the wall and teaching this way, and then I just called my mom, Mom, I need a pair of pants. Yeah, that was kind of, but I did call my boss. It's like, listen, I can't move. Little detail, I can't move. So she helped me out. They gave me like a pair of pants from the PE class. Meanwhile, frightening situation. As I said before, I'm from El Salvador. We have this Maras issue. And I was also teaching teenagers at a public school. And I failed. Well, I didn't fail the student. He failed himself because he didn't do what he had to do. And when I got to the parking lot, my window was broken. And I was informed who had been the one responsible. Nobody was going to do anything about it because he was part of the Maras. And then it was like, you should go through another way out. And I was like, oh, thank you. Oops. Things that happen when you're in a classroom, right? Because they fail, it's your fault. They pass, it's their right doing. Right? But then I've been working for the last 6 years with National Geographic Learning. Wow, 6 years. Yesterday, somebody said, Fred's been teaching for the last 20 years. And I'm like, really? 20 already? 20-something? It's like, teaching has become part of my life. And working with National Geographic Learning, I've learned to discover teaching from another perspective, from the world perspective. And let me show you a little bit of what we do at National Geographic Learning. I always forget the last name, the learning part. I think the audio is not coming out. El audio.
At National Geographic Learning, At National Geographic Learning, we serve English learners by reflecting the mission and work of National Geographic in our programs. We are inspired by Alexander Graham Bell's original goal for the magazine to be about the world and all that is in it. And we try to bring the world to the classroom and the classroom to life. If you look at our learning programs, you'll see that they're like workbook versions of National Geographic, filled with incredible photography, fascinating stories, and the real work of explorers. Explorers in particular resonate with learners because the explorer's search for knowledge and understanding is the very essence of education. At National Geographic Learning, we believe it's an incredible world, and we want to share that with students. We want students to be filled with awe and curiosity by amazing photographs and stories of their world and all that is in it. Because we know that a curious student is a motivated student, and we believe that a motivated student will be a successful student. With our programs, we're always mindful that we're not just teaching vocabulary and grammar. We're opening up the world to students who have otherwise not experienced it. Students in China, Vietnam, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, Eastern Europe, literally everywhere. We want to help these students experience their world and develop their voices. Besides having great National Geographic content, we also work with TED Talks, and we are TED's exclusive partner in English language education. TED Talks are the single most widely sourced videos for English learners, popular both because of the ideas in the talks and because of the natural English used by both native and non-native TED speakers. Ultimately, the incredible content we have from National Geographic and TED enables us to develop programs that are relevant, motivating, and powerful learning tools that bring the world to the classroom and the classroom to life.
So a little bit of that is what we do. We're bringing the world through real experiences. But today we're going to talk a little bit about critical thinking and discovering the world through analyzing. But before that, I want to ask you a question. In the 21st century, why do I need a teacher when I've got YouTube, cell phones, technology, computers? Okay. Google? Right. Google has the answers to everything. Supposedly. Right? It's God, definitely. I mean, if you don't know something, ask Google. Google knows. Right? Do you think we do need a teacher? Why? Okay, because we're lazy? Why do you need a teacher if you have Google?
Because kids, well, especially the ages that we teach, they do that personal connection.
Okay,
And sometimes Google doesn't have anecdotes to tell them, how this was like your life. It's very cut and dry.
okay,
So there's always that connection that between the teacher and the student that is essential for learning. Looking at information is not the same as learning.
okay.
So we are essential and we're very important.
First, because of the personal connection, I don't know about you, but I hated the 2 years of the pandemic. Apart from all the things, I was at the hospital thanks to COVID and all of that, but I hated it because I missed being with people. I missed this human contact. You would see the screen, but it's never the same as to be there with the person. There's this change in attitude that you transmit your feelings and you receive from other people from being with the person. And then the guidance, you were saying, Google is not going to guide you through the learning. Google is going to give you the information and that's it, right? Anybody else? Why do we still need a teacher, sir?
I agree with you. It's so similar when we were teaching classroom some year ago, 2 years ago. It was similar to classroom to stay in contact with the students in virtual.
Okay.
But we need to stay physically and feel emotional. The contact eye, etc. is so important. The feeling of the one person in front.
Okay. Google is not going to tell you stories, you said. I like that, sir. Definitely. So, definitely. We need somebody to help us, to guide us through the learning process. And we're not also autodidactic. We don't have the culture of learning on our own. Some might, but it's not the general aspect of the Latin American student. Yes. I mean, they always need someone to go to after receiving and processing all the data. They need someone to help them put everything together and in order. So we're always going to need teachers, right? Books might disappear, hopefully not, because that's what I work for, but but teachers won't. Definitely we won't. There's not going to be a robot that's going to be able to substitute teachers. Hope so. Thing is this. We need to process information, right? Information is critical and essential for learning. And these are the steps, right, in which we learn. We remember, we understand, we apply, we analyze, we evaluate, and then we create. We can divide these into 3 groups, right? From basic comprehension. Yesterday in the morning, they were talking about critical thinking and creative thinking. I don't know if you were here in the first session yesterday, and they were giving us information on how we can develop activities for critical thinking and activities for creative thinking. Sadly, most of the process or the educational process has stayed in the basic comprehension level. And if you realize that's what normally happens, students memorize, answer the test, and then they forget, and then memorize for the next test, right? When you ask them at the end of the year, what did you learn? They say nothing. Exactly. Why? Because the things or the activities that we ask them to do were so based on this low-level process of comprehension. They were only filling in the book. They were only answering yes-no questions. They were only working on the verb to be and the adjectives and repeat after me. Right? But we didn't make them bring this information into their life. We didn't ask them to think of, what are you going to do next week? Where do you want to go? What did you read yesterday? What did you see on a TikTok? That's what they do. I mean, I have younger students, and it's like I ask them, what do you do during the day? I watch TikToks. And then I watch TikToks. And then I go look for the people on TikTok on Instagram. I'm like, okay, so then tell me about your TikTokers. And then they feel more attracted to the TikTokers than to the teachers. True. So, sorry? That's how life is now. So let's go, teachers, into TikTok. Why not? Do you have TikTok accounts? Try it. At first, it's embarrassing, and you're like, should I not? What am I going to do here? But then it's fun. It's fun to share with your kids. Let's see an activity. This is a traditional, standard, normal activity. What would you do with this activity? Match? Explore how? Okay. Which objects do you have with you? Okay. This would be a standard activity, right? Complete the sentences with a word. And then you're just practicing vocabulary. And on which stage of the thinking process are we? On the basic comprehension, right? Next. Tell your partners which of these objects are in your bag today. Do you have at home, or would you like to replace? What kind of thinking process is this? Still basic? Okay. Talk with the person next to you. Think, how will you bring this exercise into the higher level of thinking process? Right now, think about it. I'll give you a few minutes for you to think and process. And then we work again in groups or in pairs or with the people next to you, 3, 2, and share your ideas. Ready? Please, get together. You have the answers. No, she doesn't.
Suddenly work in something that you swim to a desert island. What would you like to have with you? We can include places.
Can I?
So they can create some story
Okay.
for them and present for all the class.
Okay.
This is the camera. The camera is for take photos. I take photos when I go to the
Park?
or
Okay.
maybe something like that.
Cool. Sounds nice.
This they can create, use, and use of your life. Talk about
Okay.
your life.
You personalize the learning,
Yes.
right? Okay. Thank you. Sure. How would you upgrade?
Well, I'm teaching in the middle school.
Okay.
Well, I don't got an internet, I don't got a device, electronic device. Usually try to learn something else or help my boys. I stay here, I stay. But,
What would you do?
she understands, but she can
Communicate.
article of because she speaks Spanish, she tries to make it
But you're trying. Make an effort.
translate.
All right. Tell me, ideas. How would you upgrade this activity to a higher level thinking process? Ma'am?
Geographer. I am a geographer. Thank you. And I like to use the transversal knowledge every time. And I ask the students to imagine that they are in the jungle, maybe in the jungle, and they have to write a story about the jungle using the geographical topics, and maybe they can describe how can they use the objects.
Thank you very much. In the jungle. Well, you know, the vocabulary is very suitable for the jungle. I mean, you have a penknife, you have the boots, the camera, the gloves, the flashlight, the map. Cool, in the jungle. I'm already thinking of going on a trip.
We were talking that we can do several activities with those words, with those like they can put in order which one are more useful in hiking, and they also can create a story using the objects.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So put them in order of importance when going hiking, for example. Okay. And telling stories. Stories are very important. Anybody else?
We were thinking about selecting 3 objects that they would bring to a stranded island and why they would bring them, right? Or I was thinking also they could invent something new for a camping, right? Like combine 2 of these elements or something that would help them out.
Thank you. So that's cool. That's a cool question. Normally, you ask that question with your friends, like, if you were on a stranded island, which of these objects would you like to have? The cell phone would be the first that some would choose, but then how would you charge your cell phone on a stranded island? Okay. So here you have, it's similar to what you said, one of the ideas. Imagine you have to survive for one night on the side of a Himalayan mountain. Which would you take? See, that was one of the ideas. Rank these objects, okay, in order of importance from 1 to 11. You said on a hiking trip, you can say in the jungle, right? And then, why is this cool? Because his rank of importance is not going to be mine, right? And by having differences, communication starts, because then we can discuss why this is more important to you, why it's more important to me. And then it's not this format of doing the similar conversation from the one in the book, but actually having a real conversation, something that happens every day in life, right? I like having breakfast where? Where would be a nice place to have breakfast here? In bed. Breakfast in bed. Tortas ahogadas for breakfast? Okay, see? For lunch? See? For both? And then see, this is a natural conversation that happens. And then by comparing likes and dislikes or interests, you have natural communication taking place in class. Stories. You can give them, for example, here we're giving students a phrase from where to start, and then they go on with the story, or you just give them the place, and then they create the story. They were talking here about, she was telling that she's going to ask her kids to tell a story of where they can use or how they can use these objects in real life, right? And then everybody's going to have a different story, right? And they will describe the way the objects function from their perspective, right? And that's one of the greatest things about teaching English. We're not teaching a subject. We're teaching a means for communication, right? And then everybody communicates based on their life experiences, right? So we don't communicate the same way. And that's a great thing. There's never going to be, except when you're teaching grammar, there's never going to be just one answer to a question, right? So we have to keep this in mind. This is very important, yes, definitely, because that's the way we learn the vocabulary. That's the way we learn how to create the phrases that later on we're going to use to speak naturally. But we need to make a balance between all of the activities that we create in class. Now, I want to ask you some questions. Critical thinking in ELT leads to reflective students, yes. What else? Personalization of the language. Challenge, I love that. Activities? Creativity, yes, definitely. Critical thinking leads to learner autonomy and independence, okay? Because everybody's going to be working from their side. It's not individuality. It's working together, but again, sharing experiences, bringing my personal experience into class and sharing with you. Deeper processing of language, because you really have to think about it and then say, no, this is better, this sounds better. I have a student, she's a hairstylist. And when I started working with her, she said, don't teach me grammar. I'm not interested in grammar. I know I'm going to need it, and I'm going to be asking you questions during the process. But what I need is to go to Walmart or to go to Ross when my husband sends me on vacation and be able to buy. And I was like, okay. So what we basically do is that we talk. And I ask her about her customers, and I ask her what she does and her interests. And then she starts, wait. Here I have to use el das, ¿verdad? And I'm like, And then we're talking, why am I using the past participle? And I look at her, yeah, I don't know, tell me. And then she starts processing, like, I like to see her brain work on it, question, right? Instead of me telling her all of the grammar rules, I really enjoy her processing and questioning me. See? And that's what happens when you allow your students to think. Have you realized that our students don't think? Because when you ask them a question, what do you think about it? Huh? And they start looking at each other, waiting for one brave person to give an opinion, and then everybody says, lo mismo. Right? Because we're not programmed to think. We don't question our students. And you can start questioning your kids from the very low level of elementary school. Make them think, not just memorize. So deeper processing of language is very important. It happens when you work with critical thinking in the classroom. Please. More motivating classroom activities, because they're more interesting, because they have to do with your life, because they have to do with those things that you find attractive. But again, it's very standard that we have the same traditional activities. But let's bring the world, let's bring real life into the classroom, and it's more exciting. And then that motivation process that you have to jump and move around and sing and do magic is substituted by interesting topics and activities that really, really capture your students' attention. Keep this in mind, right? This is where we want to take our kids. Here is where we want to go. You were saying creativity happens in class when your students are actually thinking, right? Please. We need students to analyze and evaluate. Sir.
Sorry, just a question.
Tell me.
For you, how long takes to a student to get to that level? Because we start like remember everything, but sometimes it's difficult for students to create that. That's the goal of teaching. But sometimes it's difficult at the beginning to start processing information and understanding.
It's even difficult for us. I mean that I think there's no answer to that question, because again, it's also going to depend on the student, because every person processes information differently. And then I don't think there's a standard of time for us to do it. Like even if you're learning something new, and if you're a teacher and then you start studying geology or geography, it's going to take you a certain amount of time, and it depends on your skills and how much time and how interested you are in a topic, and how much time you devote to learning it. So I think, I wouldn't be able to tell you how much time, because again, it is a process, and it's going to depend a lot on, not just on you, because you just provide the resources, but it really depends on the person that's learning. Because again, I'm going back to this lady. She told me, I asked to change teacher, she said, because the teacher that I had would only bring me booklets to fill in. And I felt that I was not processing, and I was ashamed by my sister, because her sister is a translator in the States, and then she tried to speak with her, and her sister told her, shut up. Stop. I'm feeling embarrassed. And then we changed. We started with the process from a different perspective. And then she says, now I call my sister, and we talk in English. Slowly, but we do, she says. And I'm like, it really depends on the process and the person. But it does take time. Time, effort, and patience. A lot of patience. Pleasure. Most students simply have very little in the way of critical evaluation skills. They were not trained for it. Nobody has worked with our students, so they are able to critically evaluate things. Students don't question you. Students don't question anything that happens around. They just listen, repeat, write down, and that's it. So we have to, it sounds strange, I don't really like the word, but it's kind of, we have to train them, right? And guide them through the ability of asking questions. Not just answering them, but asking questions. We have to help our students develop this process of thinking. They may tell you they don't believe everything they read on the internet, but they do. If it's on the internet, it's the Word of God. It is. I saw it on, and they tell you where they saw it. And like, really? Because that's another thing. When we were studying, we would have to go to the library, read books, and get the information from there. Right? There were these huge books, and we would go and find the information there. Luego vino Encarta. Do you remember Encarta? And Encarta became God for us, and you would have to buy the new Encarta every year to get updated. And now we have Google, right? And everything that's there is true. And Wikipedia has the answer to all of the essays that we need, right? But it's not true, right? We need to train our students also to question the information that they find. And let's see if here's an information about a tree octopus. I like your faces. Really? Is that true? Do you think it's true? No? It was an experiment, and some people did believe it was true because it was posted online. And information started going around about this octopus, and people would support the theory of this octopus because it was online, published by someone that you could Google and would find that might be real. See? Because that's the problem of internet. You have information there, but not everything that you find on the web is true. Here you have 4 pictures. And with the people next to you, discuss which of the 4 are true and which are false. And say, why do you think they're true and why do you think they're false? Okay? Maybe, I don't know. Ready? Now get together with your peers and discuss which are true and which are false and why. Please, share. Get together. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. Because of time, let's do it together. This one. Do you think this one is true or false? True? False. It was made through editing. Photoshop. Yes. This. Exactly. The filter without filter. Yeah, filters make a huge difference. True. Next, please. See? It's not real. It was made for it. Let's go on to the next one, please. Yeah, the next one. True or false? You think it's true? Yes, they can age backwards. He says maybe true? True? False? True. Please. There are there are certain species there are certain species that do age backwards. And if you want, my presentation is going to be uploaded for Recrea so that you can see this particular page where they are explaining. And this was taken from an Geo expedition, and one of the explorers explains how the certain microorganisms age backwards. Interesting. Please. Jellyfish, actually. It's an immortal jellyfish, actually. Please. Let's go on to not that jellyfish, but the one that does grow backward, please. This one, true or false? False? False. Definitely false. Again, photoshopping, right? There are giant squids, actually, but not that big. Okay? Please. Question your assumptions, analyze, and then evaluate. See? Tell your students to do these things, please. That was the real picture. Please. Photoshop. See? The magic of Photoshop. So 3 steps to critical thinking: question your assumptions, analyze the evidence, and then evaluate its credibility. Where does it come from? Who is telling you this information? Okay? Giant camel fossils found in the Arctic. Is false? True or false? Please? True. Yes. Incredible, but true. It was in the BBC, and they don't come from the desert. They come from the Arctic. Yes.
But my question is that an actual nowadays camel or like a picture of a camel?
It's like the great-great-great-great-grandfather of the camel.
Correct. These camels are recently new. They're not like thousands of years old. They're not billions of years old.
They probably have different names.
Yeah, I mean, they evolved, and then the nowadays camels are obviously from the desert, but their prehistoric grandparents lived over there, like the elephants and the mammoth, right? Like humans and monkeys, right? Same story. Let's go on. So I was going to show you a TED Talk about a speaker telling us where the camels come from, but again, it's on the presentation and you can look for it later on because we are a bit over time. Please, let's go on. Nos saltamos ese. At any moment, you could uncover some tiny bit of evidence, some tiny thing that forces you to reframe what you thought you knew. Thing is that we need to be curious, and we need to motivate our students to be curious students. We need to motivate our students into questioning constantly everything. And by questioning, they will learn more because they will discover and they will become explorers. I love that word. I wish somebody, when I was learning, told me you could become an explorer and change the world into having my students create. Let's go. So, remember, let's jump from the lower level to the higher order. That's our goal. That's where we want to go. That's where we want to take our kids. Okay? Make it real. Make it authentic. Make it meaningful for them. Did you take the picture? Can we go back? Yep. Still, you can ask for the PPT. It's there. So, let's go on. Before that, In the 21st century, I need a teacher more than ever as a result of Google. Because Google just gives me the information. But again, it doesn't show me what to do with the information. It doesn't help me bring the information to my life. He said something really interesting. Google doesn't tell you the story behind the information. And the story behind the information gives you more information than what you actually were looking for. Help your students think that they can change the world because the world needs changing. Bring real information into your classroom and make it an impactful class. I'll just want to share one last video of what we need in these days.
This is our world.
It's beautiful,
Powerful. Challenging.
there's so much wonder. It inspires me.
Everything has a story.
And we all have something to give.
We're making important changes.
If you don't fail, you don't learn.
These are the kids that are going to be running the world tomorrow.
You need people to push the boundaries.
We're the ground zero of climate change.
These are criminals, and I'm going to go after them.
I'm here to get people to act. Everybody can make the world a better place.
So please, quick question, just how did you like it? Share with us your opinion, and thank you very much.